Hello and welcome back to another Frackin' podcast. I'm Marty. I'm here with my co-hosts.
I'm Joseph.
And I'm Van.
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're tuning in again, thank you so much. We're so glad to have you back. Today's episode is Shiny, and today we'll be discussing the Firefly universe and its animated feature that we are all super excited about. But before we get started, let's just give a little bit background information about Firefly. So the show Firefly premiered in the United States on the Fox network on September 20th, 2002. Only 11 of the 14 produced episodes aired. However, due to the DVD sales and fan interest, a movie called Serenity was filmed and released in 2005. And a few days ago, on March 15th, Nathan Fillion, who played Captain Malcolm Reynolds, confirmed that there is going to be an animated series with the animation done by Shadow Machine, and it will be set in between the ending of the show and the movie. So let's talk about it, because this is huge news in the nerd universe.
This is huge news that we have all been waiting for.
20 years.
Yeah, I've been waiting forever for this.
So first,
Did
talking about the animation.
Yeah.
This is like concept art that I found online on the animation style, which
if it looks like this, it would be incredible.
I love everything about this already. It looks like the characters, and this is really the only way that we were going to see the actors and actresses come back for the show if it was animation. And I'm excited for the things that they're going to be able to do with animation. They had a very low budget for series 1. And there are things you can do in animation that you can be so impossible or horribly expensive if you're doing special effect wise. I know when Star Trek switched to animation for the animated series, they were able to introduce a lot more main characters who were aliens. They were allowed to do some really, really cool episodes that never would have been possible live action. So this could be really incredible.
I'm excited. Yeah. And when they first announced this, I was like, they have to be going the animation route. I was in my head, I was thinking, okay, yeah, it would be great if they could bring the show back in its original format, but I was pretty certain that was never going to happen. And I was in my head, I was already preparing for them to say it's going to be an animation, and I was so excited. And if you had asked me 10 years ago if I would have accepted an animated like reboot of Firefly, I would have said no. And honestly, Star Trek is the reason why I'm so excited, because what they did with Lower Decks, what they did with Prodigy, like just shows how expansive you can be with animation these days. And I think with Firefly, there's just so much room, so much opportunity.
Yeah. It gives us so many options.
It's also a different, it's a different entity that owns it now, a very different entity. So if the animation goes well, who knows what might happen, in subsequent years. But Disney sees the opportunity for profit. They're gonna go all in and give a bigger budget.
True.
And I'm gonna be honest, I am excited. I think animated, like you said, makes lots of sense for many reasons. I think the biggest reason is we get to see like all of the things that happened in between the show and the movie. There's so many unanswered questions. Characters were introduced in the movie that we never heard of in the show. I'm excited for it. I am hoping that they can find somebody to distribute it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah, that is.
I am optimistic. I think the fan response online has been. I think they thought it would be big. I feel like it's bigger than they thought it would be.
I think I'm not surprised,
obviously, because of what's going on with Buffy right now. But I feel like there's as strong as the fan base is for Buffy, the Buffy fan base is a certain group of people, whereas I feel like the fan base for Firefly and Serenity is a little bit broader.
I feel like you might be correct on that.
Without
I'm not surprised by the response of fans for Firefly because they already brought Firefly back for a movie. That's the only reason we got the movie, is because of fans. Them coming together for this show, not at all shocked. They've been begging for it for 2.5 decades now.
Well, and Firefly has continuously been on like the top list of shows that deserved better, that shows that people wished could have made a comeback. So this is a long time coming.
Fox, airing on Fox was the biggest problem for this show, because Fox was notorious for moving shows around to the point of like destroying the show, and who knows why. But they were notorious for doing that, and they even tried to do that with the X-Files, and it eventually killed the X-Files.
I was just gonna say that's what they did with the X-Files,
But so Nathan, the Once We Were Spacemen Instagram post on this alone has 1.2 million views or likes, and 139,000 comments on it. And if you look at all of the little like clips where he's talking to the stars, right? There's like hundreds of thousands of likes and tens of thousands of comments on each of those as well. And you know, their podcast is pretty popular, but their usual likes are about a few thousand. Comments are, not crazy, not usually in the hundreds, usually under 100. Whenever they do something related to a fan or an actor that was on Firefly, there's more comments, right? So people have been pushing for some sort of a reunion of some sort. So I think this is definitely getting a lot of popularity, a lot of traction. And that's just Instagram. That's not counting TikTok or any other social media.
And I think just from a technical standpoint, I think these actors are already perfectly suited for voice act work. I mean, when you watch, we've all been rewatching Firefly this week in preparation for this, and when you watch it, just their demeanor, the stylization of voice, they sound like voice actors. They sound like actors who should be, and of course some of them are, but these characters also feel like characters that can be voiced very well in animation. So I feel like this is a group of people that are just already suited for this format.
Yeah, I know several of them have done quite a bit of voice acting, so I'm sure they will be jumping right in, but I don't see any of them struggling with that at all. They all have great voices for it. It will be very, very exciting. I want to read a script now. I want to read a script. I want the whole series in front of me just so I can read it. I need these stories. And I want to know if they're going to be dipping into any of the novels, because there are novels out and some of them do happen in between the show and the movie. Some of them happen during episodes of the show itself. There's timelines that you can look at where fans have gone through and like figured out the timeline of the novels and the show. There are comics. There are a couple other things online. Like if you start digging, you can find a lot more bonus Firefly. I want to know if they're going to bring any of the novels and turn them into shows, because I really liked a couple of them.
At least inspired, right? Like I think that's a possibility.
I would be very.
Well, I think that's the great thing about animation is you have that opportunity. You have the ability to go to the comics, to go to the novels and say, okay, we want to take the storyline, or we want to introduce this character, maybe introduce them in a different way. And that's the great thing about animation is you can do that, and you can just but I do hope we get some interesting new characters. Like you said, with Star Trek, they were able to do that.
I would like to see some new characters. I would like to see some old characters come back. Of course, we want to see Badger some more. He's amazing.
Badger, of course. I know you're a big Saffron fan.
I want Saffron to come back, and I would like her to come back and that be an amazing episode, and then they use that to catapult her into her own show or movie, because I have ideas. There are so many amazing things that you could do with her. She could have her own show or a movie, and it would be amazing. There are 2 comics about her where she does come back. One, she comes back, and the other one is you kind of get her backstory. But then it's like, is this her real backstory? Is she lying? Because you never believe anything she says.
She's kind of like a Garrick character, you know?
Yes, she is. And I love her for that.
Yeah.
But the amazingness of having a show or a movie for her where you just meet like 20 or 30 wives and husbands of her, like the montage there alone writes itself.
Yeah. You've got an easy 2 seasons worth of like material there.
So easy.
Let's go back to Badger and Mark Sheppard.
I love Badger.
In general. I mean,
okay, he can do no wrong. Mark Sheppard can do no wrong. I've never seen him act in anything and not completely embody the character and just be phenomenal.
In such range. Like, he was in Voyager.
Yes.
You know, played the father of, what was Seven's drones?
Yes.
Issa. Just, you know, totally different type of character. And then, of course, his huge run on Supernatural were just absolutely amazing. I'll be honest, I think he was my second favorite character.
Was he in Battlestar? Was he?
He was one of the Cylons. Yeah, he was one of the human Cylons.
He did Warehouse 13. I liked him in that a lot.
Got that too.
I mean, he pops up all over the place. You'll just be watching a classic show, and then he just pops up sometimes for like 1-2 episodes. I want him to come back. I would like him to come back.
I would as well. I would be very excited to see him.
So I was doing research on most popular guest characters, right? And so you've named 2, right? And then the third most popular that comes up is Patience.
Oh, Patience.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But you know, her character is actually, we see her for such a limited time, but she's such an interesting character.
Yeah.
And I think part of the reason why so many of these characters are interesting is because we have this melding of genres. We have this Western meets sci-fi, which is one of my favorite genres. I love it when these 2 genres collide. Like, that is like, you know, that's what I want in the world. I want more Western meets sci-fi. And because you get these background stories of characters with these almost traditional tropey Western backstories, but then when you put them into a sci-fi universe, it turns it into something else. And I really like that a lot about this show.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just, I'm so excited to explore whoever they bring back, right? Obviously, we know the main characters are going to be back. I don't know what they're going to do with the character Shepherd book, because sadly Ron Glass passed away.
And that's and I hope that if they do, I do kind of hope they bring him back. Obviously, I hope they do it in a way that is respectful to what he did to the character, and they find somebody who would respect the character as much as he did, because that character on rewatch is honestly one of my favorite characters.
He's so good.
And he was so mysterious. I always felt like there was something about his story we never really got to fully embrace or learn. And that added to his mystery. But I want to know more.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. And we never got that in Serenity, right? We got hints of the fact that he had such a heavy kind of tie into the Alliance, but we never found out how.
Well, and I always thought it was interesting, and I can't remember the name of the character. You know the episode, there's an early episode where they do a job for a creepy, you know, dude with glasses.
And
then
Leska?
Yes, and then he
Oh,
comes
yeah.
back later when he finds out that they're around. And in that episode where he comes back, Book is talking in the beginning about, have you read the readings of this particular philosopher? And then the bad guy, Nesca, he says the same exact thing to one of his victims. Like, have you read the books of? And I always thought, like, are they telling us something here between these two characters? Is there a connection, a history, a past that we don't know about that Book was involved in? Or I just was like, there must be something here. And I
We
didn't
were
get to know.
deprived of a lot of backstory for him. I think had we gotten more seasons, we would have gotten more. There are some comics and some novels that go a little bit more into his backstory, and I do think it's interesting. The comics and the novels aren't necessarily compatible as far as canon goes. So a lot of people are like, the comics can't be canon at all. They do pop up some weird contradictions, which, whatever. I read and watch Star Trek. I'm
Right.
perfectly okay with some contradictions. It's fine. But I didn't really like how they described some of his backstory. So I'm okay if they rewrite it and delve into it in the show. I would really like that. What I don't want them to do, I want them to recast. I think we could find a good actor to recast for the voice acting. What I don't want is for them to try and do any type of like, we're grabbing his voice from previous properties.
No.
And I don't want them to do where they're like using somebody else's voice and then trying to modify it to be more like his voice. I would rather the voice not match, but it be an actual human voice.
Same. I agree.
Just
that does worry me. I didn't even think about how people
Yeah.
will use AI for everything now. That would
I'm looking at you, Star Wars. Just recast it.
That's
it's
true.
Fine.
Just
Recast it. Stop trying to use technology to make it the previous actor. Just recast it. It's fine.
Yeah. And for me, honestly, Shepard Book's character was one of the things I didn't like about Serenity. I actually do like Serenity a lot. Of course, we all don't like the one thing about Serenity, but I felt like I didn't like how Book was kind of was written out. I understand why he was written out of the main storyline, but I didn't like how it was done. And so for me, getting him to some version of him to be able to return for this series would make me very happy.
Yes, I agree. Now, speaking of Serenity and the death of Shepard Book, how did you? I think we need to pivot into how we first watched and enjoyed this series, because I watched
the movie
first. One of my older sisters, her friend, like we were family friends with another family, and this was my sister's best friend for years. She had seen the show. We had never seen the show, but she brought the movie, and we were going to watch this movie. So she had knowledge of the show. None of us had any idea, and it wasn't for another, I want to say 3 or 4 years, because I watched it probably around the time it came out as a teenager, and I didn't watch the show until probably I was an adult.
Yeah.
I was like 19 before I watched the show.
I worked in a movie theater when this movie came out, and let me tell you, the nerds came out of the basements. Like, it was great. It was great. No.
But had you seen the show previously?
I had seen the show, but I missed the original airing on television, because it came out at a weird time. I was deep into Stargate SG-1 at the time this came out. The X-Files was also slowly starting to taper off at this point, and I was also, funnily enough, I entered Buffy late. So I was entering my Buffy phase at this time. So I was really like in Stargate and Buffy and the end of the X-Files when this came out. And I had heard about it, but didn't really know anything about it. And then a colleague of mine, we worked together, he was like, how you were the nerdiest person I've ever met. How have you never seen Firefly? And he like gave me the DVD set. I never gave it back. Sorry.
Oops.
um but yeah, so I saw it, and then it was funny because after I watched it is when I learned that yeah, some of the episodes never aired, and then they aired them out of order. Like they didn't even air the first episode first. And I thought to myself, nobody would watch the show if they didn't air the first one first. Didn't make sense. But
that was my problem. So I had, this was a weird time where I had transitioned from my job in the biology lab to working in IT. So it was like a very busy kind of like, I was like faking it till I could make it type of a thing. In 2002 when the show came out. And so I had seen a few episodes, but like they had come on different nights. So I couldn't like follow the show because like I missed the first few episodes. And then I think the first episode I actually saw was the first episode aired out of order. So I'm like, okay, this looks cool. And then I think the next episode I saw was the last episode. I was like,
it's weird. And the last episode is weird. So
yeah, I was like,
yeah,
what's going on? I don't understand what's going on. So I saw maybe 4 episodes, if that, originally, and then couldn't find it. And I was like, well, that was a cool show, but like they basically did the whole like Briscoe County Junior thing where it's like, oh, cool show, and I just can't ever find it, and it's gone.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing is because this is obvious. This is the time before you could just like rewatch things or DVR things or stream things, and so like yeah, you had to wait until it like came out essentially on some sort of format.
Or
so
it never came out.
I'm glad I was able to see it straight through and just like binge all the DVDs. But then at the same time, I remember thinking, oh, I wish I had been able to watch it when it aired so that it would have gotten more viewers. But
Fox being Fox, they Foxed
I'm
it.
not sure they even cared about the viewers. They seemed determined from day one to kill the show. I mean, there's no reason whatsoever to move around its time slot during the first season. There's no reason whatsoever to air them out of order. Like some exec was like, yeah, we filmed this. I don't like it. Let's kill it. That's the only reasonable explanation.
I feel like that is a running theme in a lot of the Whedon shows, is that same thing happens over and over and over again. And I often wonder how much behind the scenes stuff has to do with that.
Because
the stories are good.
I think they had a contract with Whedon because of Buffy. And they just, you have seen this over and over again. Like Whedon comes in, he does things, and then all of a sudden he's like removed from things, right? Like in Disney and the Avengers. Like they made this whole big deal. He did the first 2, and then like there was no sign of him again. And they didn't talk about it. And come to find out later on how problematic he was towards the stars. I think a lot of executives are like, okay, we have a contract with this dude. Let's just put it out there and then get rid of him as quickly as possible before we all get sued for whatever he's doing behind the scenes. Which I kind of...
You can finish.
I wish people had been more honest about how problematic he was so that people wouldn't care about his things.
Unfortunately, I think the problem is like the people that could have been the most honest are the ones who were most at risk of losing their jobs and having their careers destroyed if they said anything. And we've seen that with many actresses from Buffy who have now come out and said, yeah, I couldn't say anything back then. That was my job.
A lot of the things that I have heard from behind the scenes of Buffy bother me because it seemed to be a lot of the actors and actresses like standing beside each other for what power that had, but not having enough power to do anything else. And I think that my favorite character in Buffy, Cordelia, of course, is like the greatest human being of all time. But my favorite character is Spike. obviously he's amazing. Everyone loves Spike, but I love Spike because I know that Spike was supposed to come on and leave. And he was so beloved by the audience that they're like, no, we have to keep bringing him back. And Whedon hated it.
Well, I love
that brings me joy.
I love Spike because the actor James Marsters, when you get to the end of the series, there is that one scene that he has with Buffy that is talked about a lot, and he struggled with it. It put him in therapy. He went to therapy because of that scene, and he talks very openly about his experience on that show and his experience working with the other actresses, and how, he felt so strongly about that scene that he needed to like have a better understanding of its effect on women. And so I think that's why I love Spike so much.
He is easy to love. So many good reasons to love him. But that scene was only written because Whedon's
exactly.
Well, Mom, I love you.
And honestly,
I'm not gonna cuss horribly.
When I think about that scene now, and then we look at Firefly. I mean, fans of Firefly know what was supposed to happen in the second season of Firefly, and thank goodness that didn't happen, right?
I think a lot of Whedon's properties benefited from him having great ideas and then somebody else pulling back on some of the ideas that he had after the good ideas, because a lot of his ideas were not great. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm just glad that they didn't follow through with that storyline that was going to happen with Inara.
I have been chewed out online several times when I bring that up as a possibility, because they're like, it never happened. You don't have any proof. And I'm like, there's only so many times you can like hear rumors and hear talks and people confirm things. But like, since it didn't actually happen, you're going to defend Whedon?
Yeah.
Like, why?
I mean, the people who defend Whedon are the same people who defend Rick Berman, and the same people who defend J.K. Rowling. Like, let's talk about some of the fan reactions to this, right? Which
I've been trying to avoid a lot of them, to be honest.
So I've been on Threads looking at it, reading through some of the reactions, and a lot of them have been amazing. And what I love about the community, and when I say the community, like the sci-fi community and the people who, love different sci-fi, franchises and actually get the point of science fiction plots and understand deeper meaning, is that they unanimously all said, as long as Joss Whedon is not part of this, we're all in. And so Nathan Fillion, to his credit, is like, hey, we got the blessing from Joss Whedon. He's not a part of it, but we got the blessing. And like, okay, fine. It was his property. Totally understand why you would do that in the industry. That makes sense. But he's not a part of this. And the cast seems not in a hurry to try to make him a part of this, obviously. And I think that was very strategic by Nathan Fillion, who I think is another amazing person.
I think he's very smart. He's very business savvy.
He's very business savvy. But him and Alan Tudyk, I think are, I don't know, they're men, seem not problematic when it comes to things. And they seem to really kind of embrace the overall like geekiness of things and fully understand how important sci-fi is to society. So some of the fan reactions have been great. Like people are excited. People talk about what the show means to them. People are excited about it coming back in animated form because it's a perfect medium. But then there are the other reactions, like the one that Van shared with us.
I loved that article. It was amazing. It was so hilarious to read.
I didn't get past the first paragraph.
My eyes just got bigger and bigger as I read it. So the article that I shared was basically somebody saying all the reasons why this was the horrible, terrible no good, very bad idea. And the reasons why it was a bad idea are all the reasons why I'm excited about it.
So,
Right?
for context, this was on Yahoo Entertainment, but it was originally an article from Giant Freaking Robot, which, let me say this with my whole chest. I hate that site, and I hate the person who runs that site because I feel like they don't understand the value of good sci-fi, and I feel like they are a horrible person. Um,
Tell us
I,
how you
How you
really
really
feel.
feel.
I think that for somebody who claims to be a sci-fi fantasy fan, whoever runs Giant Freaking Robot is an absolute stooge for incel talking points and has no concept of being able to see beyond pretty girl space fights. That's it. That is like the depth of knowledge and understanding this person is capable of, which great. If that's what you want, totally cool. Don't act like you're an actual sci-fi fan because you don't know a fucking thing about sci-fi. Sorry. I just have to put that out there.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I struggle with a lot of articles on that site. I do like reading them occasionally. It is
Right.
helpful to see where other people who enjoy the same properties as you, where they stand on things and where their thoughts are. One of the things that I really loved about my parents growing up, I didn't love it growing up, I love it now, is our dad would make us argue. And you could call it debate, but he would make us argue. And then at some point during the discussion, he'd be like, okay, now argue the other side. And that was something that I am very, very grateful for because it did help us build empathy. We are able to see, okay, this is where they are coming from. This is what they think. And I feel more confident in how I think and feel knowing that I can see the other side of things. So I do like to enjoy some fun articles, which is why I shared which is why I shared their article with you guys. But can we talk about how the main point of this article was like, this is going to be too woke of a show?
Oh, let me read an excerpt from this article.
Oh,
Yes,
no.
please.
This has been amplified for a lot of years by the involvement of Mark Guggenheim and his wife, Tracy Butters, both alums of superhero shows, also outspoken activists. Guggenheim, responsible for the CW Arrowverse, has never shied away from using Arrow or Legends of Tomorrow to make political statements favoring specific talking points, and has already been noted for attacking Firefly fans who voted for President Trump. Such fans are concerned that yet another beloved property they enjoy will be used to attack and scold them with political messaging rather than good storytelling.
What? Wait.
I'm still wrong.
I'm still stuck on
Excuse
the
me.
fact that there are Firefly fans who voted for the Alliance. What? What?
Exactly. Like, do you understand the concept of the
That's like being a
brown
Star
coats?
Wars fan and voting for the Empire, or a Star Trek fan and being like, yeah, the Dominion, yeah. Like, what?
I will never, ever grow tired of being mad at things that Giant Freaking Robot puts out because, again, good storytelling, but concerned with political. Excuse me. And look, not all sci-fi, not all literature has a political theme to it, but most of it does have some sort of political theme.
I mean, I'm firmly in the reading itself is political. So, I mean, the act of doing so.
Right, because we don't burn books, we read them. We don't ban books, we read them. But
and because there was a time when certain people weren't allowed to read, weren't allowed to write, weren't allowed to publish, you know? So I feel like, yeah.
This is
crazy.
Reading is inherently political. I would say that sci-fi inherently has to be political.
I do too.
The whole point of sci-fi is to address major themes in society.
Mhm.
We all know this because we have more than a third grade intellectual capacity.
I mean, look, when I watched
we
Star Wars
do.
for the first time as a child, I knew that Darth Vader and friends were the bad guys.
It
Like,
is kind of, they do make it obvious. I would say, as far as sci-fi goes, I would call Firefly a soft sci-fi show. I was watching some episodes last night. My parents are in town. We were all watching it, and my mom and dad were making some comments about like, where is, like, how does this make sense? How does the science work here? And I'm like, no. The science is like a background in the show. This is a Western with like
yeah,
sci-fi set in space
yeah,
theme.
I feel
So I would call it
strongly.
a Western, which is
Yeah,
also political. Sorry.
Yes, that's true. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel strongly that budget was a major contender in why it's more Western than sci-fi. But for the characters in the story, I actually think that kind of worked out for their benefit. I think it works better where it's like 75% Western and then the rest sci-fi.
Look,
I would get hate for this, but I also consider most of Star Wars soft sci-fi. It's a fantasy set in space.
I would call it a
it's
fantasy.
a space
yeah.
opera.
It
People
is
say
a
it's-
space opera, but it is more of a fantasy than sci-fi
It's more
because
fantasy
again,
than
they are
sci-fi.
not focusing on the technology. It just happens to be the dressing of the show. It is the background of the show is the fact that it's set in space. They have robots.
Yeah.
They
to
have
me, it's like
spaceships,
futuristic fantasy.
but it is futuristic fantasy.
Did
And
we
I
just
love it.
summon Star Wars nerds to our podcast?
What are they gonna do? Be mean to me?
Cry?
Okay.
What are they gonna
Cry about
force
it.
choke us? Like,
I got a lightsaber. Come at me, bro.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not far away from having a lightsaber.
Listen,
Oh, look
listen.
at
Mine
that.
is better than a stick. I can hit people with it.
I mean, I don't have a Star Wars thing at hand, but I have a more powerful weapon.
I
Yes,
mean,
a sonic screwdriver. That will solve all the problems. Hey, listen, if they come at me, I will probably just actually grab my batleth because that would actually hurt. But yeah, Star Wars is fantasy. Firefly is a Western. I want them to stay with the Western roots, but I do want them to veer more into a lot of the modern Westerns that I enjoy as movies, where we are getting a more accurate representation of what the quote unquote Wild West was, where it was a lot more diverse than a lot of the Westerns I watched as a kid. I want more of that. And speaking of diversity, I think that we touched on some of the problematic things in Firefly, and I hope we are steering away from those. I think the animated series gives us a wonderful opportunity to address and correct a lot of the problematic things from the
the lack of Chinese characters.
Like the lack of any Asian characters.
I mean, when it becomes such a huge part of the culture and lore of the world, you'd think that you would see more of it. You would see more of it in the characters.
Mal cusses in Mandarin.
Yeah.
But there's not a Chinese person to be found anywhere in the show.
They also only use Mandarin to cuss. I would like them to throw in more Mandarin words randomly that aren't just cussing. There are a couple times where somebody is like saying a couple sentences.
Yeah, I feel like what they wanted to do was, I think they wanted Mandarin to be the language of the aristocracy, because we see that in the business world, in the medical field, we see a lot more of it being spoken in fuller sentences. We see Anara speaking it in full sentences sometimes. And then I felt like English was supposed to be like the backwater language, like the language of the people kind of thing. But yeah.
I'm not going to make any comments that I want to make right now because I do not want to offend anybody.
What are you going to, how are you going to offend us? Please offend us. I love it.
No, not offend you. Like, I know I'm not going to offend you.
No.
I'm just talking I'm just saying, when the show came out, it was not super believable that Mandarin would be the language of aristocracy. But given modern
it makes perfect sense to me.
It makes perfect sense.
It makes I mean, if anything, it should definitely be the language of business.
Yes.
I see no reason why it.
And if it's the language of business, then it would. I think it would also be the language of academics.
Probably.
I mean, anyway, never mind.
But
I feel like they used the idea of China and America being superpowers, and they used that idea to justify making the entire background of the show more quote unquote exotic. But it just comes off very, I can't even, I'm trying to like not rip it to shreds right now. It's pretty icky and gross when you rewatch it now and you think about how it is being portrayed, because you get it like the subtitles I was watching last night. It's not Mandarin. It always says speaking Chinese. And I'm like, okay. Sure.
I mean,
sure.
To me, it's not to get like too literary, but like to me, it was definitely giving The Good Earth, which if you haven't, it's a novel written by Pearl S. Buck. It was Pulitzer Prize winning. It takes place in China and it's about Chinese characters, but it's written by a white person, and so it's giving very much like it was the 30s. But still, it's definitely giving like
there were Chinese writers in the 30s.
I know, but but nobody was publishing them in English, unfortunately.
I feel like the people in charge of costuming for Firefly were like, oh, we're gonna go Asian inspired.
Horrible. I'm sorry.
And some of it is so bad. And you can give them a little bit of grace because it's in the future, and
we don't have to give them any grace.
Styles change and evolve, but there are so many things in the background that are very clearly we're trying to signal that this is Chinese, and it's just like vaguely Asian or Middle Eastern, even in many cases, which is fine.
Or it's like somebody randomly saying like, oh, she makes really good bap pao, and I'm like,
yeah,
what?
Why did we? Okay.
So much.
And then we have lettering on things.
Well,
for context, right? Because I don't think people realize there's 140 regional dialects of Chinese, right? So like Mandarin is the official dialect of China, but there are also 56 different ethnic groups in China.
Yes.
And I think when people think of China in the West, they think of like one uniform people. There's 56 different ethnic groups.
Yeah.
Did you know? It is there's uniform.
And I'm not going to talk about the politics in China, but I'm going to go ahead and point out the fact that there's a large Muslim population. And I did not realize this until taking some Hebrew classes and getting curious and looking into it. My youngest brother, actually found out there's a huge population of Jews in China that have been there forever, and have fully integrated into the culture and stuff. So China is like this it's just as diverse as the United States, probably more diverse in many ways than the United States is, and people just think of it as this one uniform thing. And when you look at the costumes and you look at the foods and the conversation pieces, hey Watson, right?
It's
Dagger.
like a woman in the 1930s writing about China, a place she has
never
seen. I don't know that she didn't go.
I think
China,
she lived there, but still, when your main characters are that different than you,
I think
there's a question about whether or not you should be writing their lived experience.
I think it is possible.
Firefly teeters.
I don't think it's very easy, and I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah. I think Firefly could have it really needed a main cast Asian character.
Yes.
And it
At
probably should have been, as Van mentioned before we started, it probably should have been the Tams.
I have seen people do like a recasting where they grab, current actors and actresses and they recast it. And almost always they recast Simon and River as Asian. And I think that is correct. I don't see any reason
I
why
also
they
feel like if we're going to go with saying that Mandarin is the language of the aristocracy, that already makes more sense.
I mean, yeah.
It would also make sense for the alliance to be mostly Chinese if that is kind of the case, because it seems very much like what Whedon was going for was like the alliance was the oppressive force that had a lot of Chinese influence just because the population would have been heavily Chinese. And the little bits of backstory we get about Serenity and Firefly is that, Earth became uninhabitable, and so they had to leave. And so, of course, the major powers would have had the ability to move more of their people away than other powers, right? So I kind of feel like there should have been, at least on the Alliance side, there should have been a lot more Chinese people.
Yes.
And I can see why maybe they wouldn't do that, because then again,
that would be
you're isolating them as the villain.
Right.
But
I'm actually surprised they didn't do that.
That's a good point. But I feel
that's that's one of the good things I think about.
I think by deciding to only cast white people, they actually unintentionally did something correct.
I mean, they could have had one of the leads. I mean, even Inara. I think Inara could have been. That's also kind of pushing an edge there because of her job.
I really do not want her. Of all of the main cast, that is like the one that I would be upset if they recast her Asian.
I mean, if they recast her alone, then it's problematic. If they recast her alone. But if she
unless they did almost the whole cast, then I wouldn't, just because of the already over-sexualization of Asian women in general. It would probably bother me, and I don't think that it would. I think people would ruin it. I think that it could be done beautifully, but even if it was done in the best possible way for the show, that the fans would ruin it.
Yeah. I mean, the female characters on the show already have an issue with sexualization.
Oh my goodness.
So
bad. Episode 1.
Everything about episode 1 is a little bit problematic to me when it comes to how they talk about the characters. Like when Book comes on board and Mao is calling Inara ambassador, and just the way he casually throws out things, like that was
casual misogyny. Yeah.
I like Mao, but I don't like Mao because he's horrible to Inara, even though he has feelings for Inara. He acts like a complete dick, right? This is why Wash is always going to be my favorite character on the show, even though sometimes he's a little bit not great too.
Listen, him and his dinosaurs can do no wrong.
And Alan Tudyk in general can do no wrong.
I mean, he can do no wrong. I think one of the great things about Firefly not getting a season 2 is we didn't have to watch multiple seasons of Inara and Mao fighting and him being horrible to her, and then her eventually having to quit her job and change everything about herself so that they could be in love, because that's how it would have been written, instead of him growing and learning to not be an asshole and be respectful, because the rest of the verse was like a companion is a completely legitimate job, and he is like, no, you're a whore.
Which I think is quite interesting, because if you look at all of the female characters on this show individually, I feel like individually they are all the least problematic characters. And they with River as maybe a side exception because of what's going on with River there. I feel like Kaylee Zoe, and Anara all, and you could add Saffron into this as well, all stand as very fully formed characters with, like, they all know who they are. They're all very strong in who they are.
And have no growth, kind of like
But they
Princess
don't,
Leia, who
that's
has no growth and is beloved because her
because they
character
are already
arc's
fully formed
over.
at the beginning. That's the
Yeah.
problem, because they already are fully formed in the beginning. But I have to say, as much, and I struggle with Whedon's depiction of women in general. We can look at Buffy for some problematic situations there, and River, I think, falls kind of into that Buffy situation a bit. But I have to say that Kaylee, for me, was the first female character I saw on TV that was very confident in her own sexuality and wasn't embarrassed by it. And for me, was really important, seeing that.
Yes.
I had never seen that before. I had never seen a woman who was both polite and friendly and cute, but also very strong in her sexuality and knew who she was and wasn't going to change necessarily. That was important for me to see.
Yeah,
I
she
do.
had
Her character is unique and fantastic.
she had an innocence, but also like a confidence that I I mean, I give Jewel Straight a lot of credit for how she was able to portray that. Because she could be like just this really naive young woman in one scene, and then just absolutely completely confident in her sexuality and her abilities as an engineer in the next scene, right? Like it was very refreshing to see how it's portrayed.
I mean, I was glad
Um,
whenever she stood up to Simon, it was basically like, why are you being mean? You don't need to
Yeah,
say those things. Just
yeah.
because you're rich and we're poor, just because you're a doctor and I'm a mechanic doesn't mean that you are better than me. And you don't see that very often in film and TV, where the female character stands up to the male character, let alone the character that they have a crush on, which I thought was very dynamic,
very good.
was very was very deep.
That's the scene on the planet right before Simon gets kidnapped, right?
Yes, where she's thinking
Yeah.
about buying him the plate. And then
Yes.
he
And
insults the
I
plate.
love that because and it's so wonderful, and Simon's my favorite character. I talk about Saffron a lot, but Simon and his characterization is so phenomenal. And he spends the entire show so focused on River. Every single thing he does is River, even in his flashbacks. Everything he's doing is for his sister. It's about his sister. He gives up his dream, his life of being a surgeon for his sister. And in that moment, even though he is being an asshole, she is the only person who could have distracted him from his sister. And she did. And River wanders off, which is how they, get kidnapped. But only Kaylee could. And I think that speaks to how much he really cared about her, even though he was being a complete asshole. And he deserved everything that she said.
I will say there's a lot about his character that is very Asian themed, and actually done in ways that are very accurately portrayed. If he had only been cast as a Chinese person, that would have been perfect.
It makes no sense that him and River are not Asian, but their
None.
sibling dynamic is beautiful, and him being Asian, I want it in life.
I mean, it would have been perfect. But Hollywood being Hollywood.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you guys what you thought about this fan theory, and this goes back like years, so I'm sure you've heard of it. The fan theory about the Buffy verse and the Firefly verse being the same universe, and River
River's a
being
Slayer.
a dormant Slayer.
I think it's fascinating.
Where are the vampires, though?
I like it staying in the theoretical. I would never want them to write it into canon.
No. The theory, I think the fan theory is basically that the Wolfram Heart people of Angel continue doing their weird demon experiments, and then 500 years in the future you have like Reavers.
Fun.
it's a cool theory.
Yeah.
Typically Whedon shows don't intersect like that, except for
Yeah.
obviously Buffy and Angel. But I mean, I would like it, but I really kind of think this highlights Whedon's like limited ability to characterize women in general. Because if you look, Zoe and River are both very powerful women, and while Zoe is like much more integrated into society and more aware and much older and mature, like she is essentially like a badass who is really hard to take down, right? Obviously. But like the superhuman abilities of Ripper, it's just a trope that he uses over and over again in his shows, and it's really exhausting. Like
it really is.
Whedon's exhausting.
He writes 2 women, and that's okay. So,
but he doesn't.
I like both.
I think it's interesting how, to me, it's interesting to me how he has managed to create all of these universes in adult settings where in the book world they would all be YA.
Accurate. I did enjoy a fun conversation with some people online recently where they were discussing YA and adult in the book space. And it was started because a creator was like, okay, here's a book that if it were written by a woman, it would have been YA. But because it was written by a man, it's adult. It's serious.
I know exactly
fiction.
What you're talking about.
Yes. So I know that you probably saw the same TikTok I did.
Yeah.
But then that went into another space where this continued. And there are so many books that are like this.
It's true.
There are so many books written by women that should not be YA, but are. And I think that this is the same thing. I think YA. Yeah. Like, is it adult? No, not really.
And there's nothing. So, and to be clear, there's nothing wrong with young adult.
No, we love YA.
I find there's lots of amazing stories in YA. So, but yeah, look, we all know there's evident misogyny in the industry, just like there's like a lot of racism in the industry.
Oh my goodness.
The fact of the matter is the reason why white people are cast for River and Simon are because even to this day, Hollywood has a huge problem when it comes to Asian actors. Like, there are exceptions despite what the industry does. I don't understand why it exists. I think part of it is fear because there's a huge film industry in like Hong Kong and in Asia in general, Japan, and I think Hollywood is afraid of opening that door and being overwhelmed, which is just stupidity because I think there's the possibility of collaboration can be amazing. I think you'll see that like Universal has taken Japanese IP and it has been hugely successful. But again, they don't cast Asians in their versions of this as much as they cast white people, which is amazing. There is so much amazing story and film and TV in Asia. And I just don't understand why there's such a bias towards Asian Americans in the industry here. We were talking about this before our podcast started. I'm going to go on my soapbox, right? Like,
please do.
Shang-Chi was amazing.
Oh my god.
It's
so
Marvel
it's
has
one of the best Marvel films. It's one of the best Marvel.
And Marvel has had a huge problem with audience and drawing audience and movies performing well in the box office post Endgame. And Shang-Chi is one of those properties that did pretty well during the pandemic even. It has rewatchability. The stories were original, heavily Asian themed, heavy Asian American presence. It
And
did
yet,
well.
I feel like anybody can still relate to these characters.
Well, that's the whole point, right? Like, even though it is a very Chinese culture, the themes are still very relatable. Like, there's something for everybody in those movies. And there's a whole population of Asian Americans who are desperate to see themselves in media in the States, right? I mean, yes, we can go and look at, like, we can watch Japanese and Korean and Chinese film to get that, but mainstream American media really has this hard line in the sand on promoting a lot of Asian properties. And I think Shang-Chi was absolutely deserving of a sequel. And they even said they were going to do a sequel, but it keeps on being like ignored. And they keep on pushing the same good stories, but overused stories that people have been exhausted by. It's like, why don't you change it up? Why don't you have more diversity, and not just an Asian American presence, but, like, Black Panther had 2 movies and they were great, but we don't see,
I mean, they were
like, a
nominated for
lot.
Academy Awards, and
They were so good.
Didn't one of them win?
I think, yeah, I think the first one won several. Like, there are so many stories to be told, and from a perspective that's not just like white European centered, and we don't see it. It really bothers me that they will borrow our stories and borrow our culture in ways that they feel are not going to offend a certain population of people. I will not go into anything further than that. But to
I mean,
actually fully embrace it.
I feel like it's just proof that, these industries are run by a certain demographic that has a lot of money, and they don't want to invest in what they consider to be risky because they don't understand that these are human stories. That somebody could watch somebody could watch Sinners from anywhere in the world and be
And relate.
connected to the story, relate to the
Oh
characters,
my
relate to the
goodness.
music. The same with Shang-Chi, that you could watch that and you can feel the human thematic elements of it and connect with that.
And I think one of the biggest problems that Hollywood has is that they don't understand how interconnected the different cultures are to each other and its similarities, right? So a lot of Asian Americans have businesses in traditionally Black neighborhoods for a very specific reason, right? And that is because of redlining, and that's because a lot of Black families were denied loans to open up their own businesses in their own neighborhoods by traditional banks. And when Chinese Americans came over, or Asian Americans in general came over, the only places they got loans to open businesses were in Black neighborhoods for a very specific reason, right? Like, they're horrible reasons, right? They were trying to do all sorts of things. And what it ended up doing, it didn't turn these two cultures against each other. Like, you'll see a lot of appreciation of Asian culture in Black America, and a lot of appreciation of Black America and Asian culture, because they have coexisted alongside each other for so long. They appreciate each other. They appreciate each other in many different ways. And so when you have movies like Shang-Chi, or when you have movies like Sinners, right? You're not just appealing to one group of people, you're appealing to a very diverse group of people. And Latin Americans are not one racial makeup even. They have always embraced diversity and different ethnicities into their culture. So, I mean, you're able to pull in so many more brand new people to media when you embrace these differences.
Yeah.
And I think Firefly was trying to take advantage of that without actually taking advantage of that, which is sad. So I would like to kind of bring this back to the topic at hand, right? Instead of me ranting, I would like to see a little bit more representation, not just Chinese representation, not just Asian representation in the new Firefly cartoon. I would like to see I mean, where are all the other cultures? Like,
Yeah.
The Indian subcontinent has basically been ignored in Firefly.
completely
I would
ignored.
say Africa. I understand that we have Zoe, but
And book, but not the same.
It's not the same because Zoe is basically an attachment to Mao because of their military history. But like what you were
Yeah.
saying, I mean, I feel like good storytelling crosses racial boundaries, crosses cultural divides. If it's a good story, then everybody should be able to connect with it. And I feel like Firefly has this opportunity. They've already built a world that is trying to combine all of these things. Yeah, show it to us through the characters as well.
one
Yeah.
of my favorite things that stories do is when they take the differences of the characters and they make that more important to the story. So I think we could bring in some more diversity and then actually represent that diversity correctly and beautifully and add actual flavor to the story, and it would be amazing.
I mean, I think it would be great if they did what Marvel's What If did in that one episode. Do an entire episode in Chinese. Do an entire
That would
episode in
be
Mandarin,
fun.
you know? Do an entire episode in Mandarin, or if it's a character that's from a smaller dialect, do the entire thing in that dialect. I mean, to show us more of the world. You know, that was one of the best episodes
That was a
of
good
What If.
episode.
Yeah. I feel like within recent history, Godzilla minus one highlights how well something can be done. In like that movie came out in the theaters. It was subtitled, right, in Japanese. They had a budget of $10 million, and they made like 116 million in the box office. So in today's kind of numbers, like, yeah, it didn't make $1 billion, but it made a huge amount of profit because this was just a Japanese director using very limited budget, telling a really good story, and people loved it. Like people didn't care. I think it's been dubbed. I don't remember, but
I have absolutely no problem reading subtitles. I prefer subtitles even if the movie or show is in English.
Same.
It helps me personally, but I do know there are some people that cannot read fast enough to
and
enjoy
that's
movies with subtitles.
I
And I
totally
understand that is an obstacle for getting a subtitled movie widely viewed. But I think we should do more of it anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I live in a multilingual house. Subtitles are always on in one
yeah.
language or another. They always are on.
I feel like what things recently have shown us, right? Like with Godzilla minus one, with K-pop Demon Hunters, right?
Oh
Is
my
that you can
goodness.
tell stories that are very specific to other groups and can be universally loved. I mean, let's talk about K-pop Demon Hunters. It's
All
a
day long.
cartoon. It's it comes from a very Korean American perspective. That is not my culture. There is, there are overlaps with Asian culture in a lot of ways. So like I understand a lot of where they're coming from. But I'll be honest, like I get emotional talking about that just because seeing any Asian American representation is so important to so many people in this country. And to see them win like major awards, both
Mhm.
for the plot and for the music, and seeing kids all over the world singing lyrics in Korean, right? Which I'm not Korean, but just seeing them embracing Asian culture in any way is just absolutely amazing. Um, I I I know that Golden has been played to death, right?
Not yet. Not yet. I'll listen to
I
it
But
can still listen to it.
again.
it's just Firefly has this opportunity. It's gonna be animated. I think Netflix should pick it up because it makes a lot of sense. it would be really easy for Netflix to pick it up and make tons of money on it. They've already proven that they can do animation and profit, and they can market it properly. I think it would be great if they picked up Firefly. It would be great if they had some more diverse stories in it. I don't see how it could go wrong, to be honest.
I would be okay with that.
I mean,
The
I
only
think
way
it's a
it could go
perfect
wrong.
idea. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said earlier, I think the great thing about this is there is the potential for it going the direction of Star Wars, reviving the entire franchise and turning it into something else that could potentially go back to a series. Maybe not with the original cast, but if the animation can bring enough interest into it, we could get other stories with other characters in this world. I mean, the world is massive. It's
Yeah.
huge. It's like it has potential for, what Star Trek is doing, what Star Wars is doing. But in a different niche that I think would be fun to explore. So I feel like the potential is there. Yeah, they just has to be somebody to give it that chance.
I mean,
Please.
can Star Wars, I know the movies are going to divide people, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
I disagree with that, but the Clone Wars led to The Mandalorian,
Yeah.
essentially, which is now going to be the next feature film. And Star Wars fans are their own worst enemy, right? So they had 3 amazing movies. Now, I do understand there were some there are definitely plot points that I didn't like. I love the characters. I think there were some continuity issues between the movies because they didn't know that was studio problems. That was not the actor's fault.
Mhm.
But the next live action movie to come out that seems to be like, hey, this is going to, reinvigorate the franchise, all started because of the success of the Clone Wars, moving forward to Rebels, moving forward to stories told away from the main cast, right?
Mhm.
Like, this movie is not centered around the Skywalkers. It's not centered around Vader. It's something totally different, and I think amazing. So I'm
That
excited.
that does remind me of one of the very vocal problems that people have with this decision. I know a lot of Star Wars fans that will not watch the Clone Wars or Rebels because they are cartoons. And I'm an adult. I don't watch cartoons. Very serious about this. You guys are boring. I'm just going to say that.
Yes.
If you don't watch cartoons, you're boring.
Agreed.
But there are
Agreed.
a lot of very loud people who have said that they are not going to watch Firefly
Yeah, well,
because
they
it
don't
is
have to watch it.
animation. And
They don't have to.
I'm like, you're missing out. You're missing out. You're boring. This is a wonderful opportunity. We get an animated series. We can get live action in the same universe with new stories. Star Trek has done this. Star Wars has done this. They've gone to animation. They've gone back and forth between live action and animation. And we get new characters. And I think if they had tried to make something in the same universe with new characters, like Star Wars did The Next Generation, I'm not sure the fan base would have been there for it and accepted it and loved it. But if we can get this animated series out, we can grow the fan base more. We can get people hooked back onto Firefly. I think live action, where we go in the future, 10 years, 15 years, the children of these characters, which there are comic books based on their children, very fun. Or I want to go back and see them leave Earth that was. Like, what was that like?
Yeah.
Go back to the war. Show us the war. We had a lot of fun with the Clone Wars in Star Wars. Like, the opportunities we have after this show, not just this show, but after this show, I am absolutely thrilled.
I mean, what I want to understand is how Firefly and Alien tie together. I will never rest until I have that answered for me.
You know what? I'm here for it. I'm here for
I
it.
am too.
Marty,
I am
write the
too.
fan fiction.
I will. I'll write it.
I want to see River fighting a xenomorph.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
That's it.
Yes, that's what we need. I support that. I do support that. So, do we have any last minute thoughts that we want to cover?
I mean, we covered a lot. I felt
We
like
did
this was a
cover
really
a
good
lot.
discussion about this show, and I really hope that we get to. I hope they get a home.
I want them to get a home, but I also know even if they get a home tomorrow, that we're looking at 2 to 3 years before we get a show, because animation takes time. I think
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, you're just gonna sit there and doodle. Why isn't it out tomorrow?" But good animation takes time.
Good animation takes a long time.
Talking about K-pop Demon Hunters again, they already greenlit a sequel. And they announced, it's going to be like 3 years, and people lost their minds. They want it right now. And they're like, we're going to be over it. We're going to be on to something else by the time that comes out. But the problem is, if you want animation and you want it to be good, that's what you get. If you look at a lot of the Disney sequels, you get this amazing Disney movie, and then there would always be the like straight to VHS second one, and the animation was not as good, and that's because they spent less time on it. You need 2 or 3 years. So it's going to be at least a solid 2 years before we get anything on our screens,
which is fine with me. I would rather that they do it right.
I will wait.
I'd rather they do it right.
We've waited 20 years. What's another?
I mean,
couple?
yeah. Exactly.
What's another 2 or 3? I'll wait.
I do think that part of the problem, not this one in particular, but for other things like K-pop Demon Hunters, right? Part of the problem is studios are still so afraid to take chances.
Yes.
And then they're surprised when they make hits.
Right. And so like K-pop Demon Hunters was a surprise. So they didn't start working on a sequel right away. It's like one of the biggest problems we have is whoever's making decisions in Hollywood are so removed from the fan base, they don't understand what's going to be popular or not.
Consistently, they are completely off. I can't imagine having a job where I'm supposed to be like pinpointing trends and picking the next big hit, and I am just consistently failing at my job.
I mean, they're worse than meteorologists at this point. And I'm sorry to meteorologists. I know a lot of you do great work, and I apologize.
Hey, they just need more funding. So
they definitely need more funding.
Right now, they are actually worse at predicting things because they don't have the funding that they need to do it right. But yeah, no, they're really bad at their jobs sometimes too. I was supposed to get like a foot of snow like 2 months ago, and I got like an inch. I was very disappointed. My kids were basically in tears. They're like, what do you mean?
So what we have learned is that yes, we have lots of opportunity for Firefly, and we need to better fund meteorologists and whoever
and no AI on this animation. We don't want any AI.
We don't want any.
And then Hollywood get their shit together. That's basically
what together.
That's not going to happen. But we
can give us the diversity that we need.
Yes,
that actually represents the world that we're in now and the world that would be in 500 years.
I've got so many comments. I'm not gonna.
I have said this to Joseph many times, and I've said it to many people many times. But one of the shows that I rewatch constantly, especially when I, just want a warm, fuzzy feeling, is Kim's Convenience. And if you haven't watched it, Marty, it's amazing.
I haven't.
But it is about a Korean family. The parents immigrated from Korea to Canada, and they own a convenience store, Kim's Convenience. And it's just about their life. It's just 5 seasons about their life. And it makes me feel at home. Okay. It is comforting and sweet and lovely. And this is to say, there are white people in the show. but they are few and far between. And you can have an almost entirely Asian cast and have white people watch it and relate and enjoy it. Hollywood, listen to me. You can do this. I believe in you. Give us the diversity, okay?
And don't ever listen to what giant freaking robot has to say.
Never.
Ever.
That was the worst article. I was like, what am I reading?
So fantastic. Come on,
I
guys.
started reading it.
Entertaining.
I was raging out. I was like, who wrote this? And I looked up, it's giant freaking robot. Who, by the way, like recently put on LinkedIn, like now hiring writers, but specifically
I
these
saw
writers
that.
have to like shit talk Discovery.
I like,
And
no.
I was like,
should
wow.
talk Starfleet Academy.
And Starfleet.
We hate it. Yeah, we
I love Starfleet Academy.
It's so good. It's so good.
We need another next episode will be Starfleet Academy.
Let's do it.
Yes,
discussion.
That sounds fantastic. I am on board. Starfleet Academy next episode. Oh no, I'm gonna have to watch it again.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I was planning to anyways.
It's rewatchable. Wow.
It is rewatchable. Almost like it's Star Trek.
Almost like its themes are perfectly in line with every Star Trek ever.
And what's going on in the world.
It's really good.
God forbid a Klingon warrior wear a skirt, because how could that ever happen?
I mean, they're known for like reciting poetry.
Klingon opera. Let's think.
Don't even get me started. Don't even get me started, because I'm going to be like, you've got issues with a Klingon warrior wearing a skirt, like, and then. But like Braveheart comes out and men are painting their faces half red and blue. I'm like, come on now.
Oh my.
This is going to be a very, very fun episode. So we will plan a time for this, and we will announce it. But yes, Starfleet Academy as our next episode. Sounds amazing.
Okay, I think we're done.
Pretty good.
We got everything out. I've got more to say for like the next 5,000 years about Firefly, but yes, I'm closing. Oops, I forgot that was me. That concludes episode 21, Shiny. We're so glad that you tagged along. Please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share our podcast with your friends. Our next episode will be about Starfleet Academy. So if you're not following us, follow us so you know when to hear that or watch that if you're watching on YouTube.
Check out our new website.
Yes.
Anotherfrackenpodcast.com, where you can watch our live stream, and we will announce things in the future. So
I'm very excited. It's very nice. So check it out. Bye.
Going out to explore. Tune-in comes to another frackin' podcast. Time travel, wormholes, and more. Chevron's locked on another frackin' podcast, debating all the lore. We get signal of another frackin' podcast, nerdy topics galore. Systems go for another frackin' podcast.